The fascist Trump regime inadvertently triggered a civil war in the gaming community after it hijacked a popular video game character for propaganda purposes. The character in question is Master Chief, pictured behind me, from the Halo series, which is a legendary game franchise that I myself am a fan of. And while I'm no diehard per se, I definitely enjoy the series. I picked up the first Halo on the original Xbox. Then I picked up the HD remaster on Xbox 360. And then after that, I bought it again on Xbox One when they released the Master Chief Collection. And they recently announced that they're going to be releasing it yet again. And will my dumbass quadruple down? Probably. At least, when there's a sale, I might pick it up on Steam. But the reason why the newest remake is so significant is because for the first time, Halo is coming to PlayStation. And this led to GameStop declaring the console wars over, writing in this half-serious press release, Halo Campaign Evolved is officially coming to PlayStation in 2026 with cross-platform play. Therefore, GameStop, acting under its authority as a neutral entity in the world's retail gaming and trade-in destination, hereby declares the official cessation of the console wars. And this press release is where the story we're going to talk about today begins, because the Trump regime decided to use this as an opportunity to pander to gamers, which resulted in a cringeworthy back and forth between them and GameStop. So the regime's rapid response account credited Trump for presiding over the end of the 20-year console wars, to which GameStop replied with a picture of Trump and Master Chief shaking hands, his neck pussy notably absent. Then the White House joined in with this AI-generated picture of Donald Trump, no neck pussy included, and Master Chief's armor with an energy sword, which is an iconic weapon from the series. GameStop then replied to that with a picture of Trump wearing Master Chief's helmet as if his big-ass head could fit in it, and they include a memified version of JD Vance as Cortana, Master Chief's AI sidekick. And then after that, the Department of Homeland Security jumped on the bandwagon too, and they used Halo to recruit brown shirts for the ICE Gestapo with the caption, "Destroy the Flood." Silly me for thinking that the TV show was the worst bastardization of the series, but I mean, here we are. But that tweet right there is really the straw that broke the camel's back, and I have to give you some additional context so you understand why fans of the series were so outraged by that particular tweet. And spoiler warning for all of the PlayStation players who've never played before, but the Flood, which they reference, is a parasitic alien species that you discover in the game that you have to kill by all means necessary because, as Halopedia explains, the Flood reproduces and spreads by infecting other organisms, hijacking their bodies and nervous systems in order to transform them into one of many specialized forms. Through infecting sentient life forms, the Flood assimilates their memories and intelligence, and the species becomes collectively more intelligent as a result. Because of their frighteningly rapid growth rate, as long as enough hosts of sufficient biomass and intelligence are available, the Flood is effectively unstoppable. In other words, the threat of the Flood is so severe that an ancient, more advanced alien species known as the Forerunners built super weapons known as Halos to wipe out all life in the galaxy to stop the spread of the Flood, because if there's no life for them to leech off of, then they can't grow and spread. In other words, the Forerunners believed that this parasitic alien threat was so severe that it was justifiable to destroy all life in the galaxy just to stop them. And that right there is what Homeland Security is saying immigrants are akin to the Flood. They're saying immigrants are such a severe threat that atrocities are warranted to stop them from invading and spreading. That is why fans of Halo were so taken aback by this post, because it is despicable. And the people who understand Halo lore see that this is a level of dehumanization of immigrants that is comparable to the propaganda that Nazis disseminated to demonize Jews in the 1930s. It's truly abhorrent, and some prominent gamers like Joe Vargas, aka Angry Joe, didn't appreciate the franchise that they love being used for propagandistic purposes. He wrote on Twitter, "Fuck ICE and fuck Donald Trump. Get the fuck out of here with using Halo for your shitty dehumanizing police state propaganda. No one thinks your shit is cool besides low IQ her mega cult members on X, half of which are bots. Y'all gonna find out soon the next election." Now the Act Man joined him, writing, "Only deportation I want to see is the guy who runs this account." And in an article for PC Gamer, Andy Chalk argues, where the Trump as Master Chief post is merely cringeworthy, the Homeland Security message is flat out dangerous. Comparing immigrants in the US to a parasitic alien life form that infects and annihilates advanced societies is not just deeply offensive, it's also rooted in the worst of human history, as seen in the Untermenschen of the Holocaust and cockroaches in Rwanda, to name a couple recent examples. Dehumanizing the other so you can more easily inflict cruelty, injustice, piss and whores upon them is hardly a new technique, and the US government's messaging was not subtle. And he adds, you might think that using imagery from one of its best-known video games in a call to destroy immigrants would prompt Microsoft to action, or at least to express some small modicum of disapproval. For now, at least, you would be wrong. Rather, like Nintendo, which eagerly picks copyright fights it knows it can win, but kept its mouth tightly zipped when Homeland Security used Pokemon to promote violent immigration raids, a representative told PC Gamer that Microsoft does not have anything to share on this matter. Which is interesting for a corporation hyper-obsessed with their image and brand, but to understand why Microsoft is taking this position, all you have to do is follow the money. As CBS News reports, Microsoft doesn't want to upset President Neckpussy because they stand to lose hundreds of millions of dollars in federal contracts if they do. In fact, they're one of multiple big tech companies kissing his fat ass by funding his ballroom in order to stay in his good graces. That's what explains their deafening silence. But as Andy mentioned, Nintendo took the same bitch-ass approach after DHS shared a video of ICE arresting immigrants with the caption "Gotta catch 'em all" to the tune of the Pokemon theme song. They also spliced in scenes from the anime, and even though the Pokemon company issued a statement saying that they didn't give them permission to use their IP, they did fuck all to get it taken down, which is stunning because if you so much as hum the Pokemon theme song, Nintendo will send ninjas to your home to rip off your fucking head and shit down your throat. We're talking about one of the most litigious companies in all of gaming, but yet they have no interest in stopping their IP from being used for fascist propaganda. It is so pathetic. But to get back to Halo, even though Microsoft was too chicken shit to condemn the use of their IP as fascist recruitment propaganda, some of the original creators of Halo just were not having it. Journalist Stephen Totillo reports, Marcus Leto, co-creator of Halo and lead designer of Master Chief, told GameFile that he found the DHS ICE post absolutely abhorrent. He added, "It really makes me sick seeing Halo co-opted like this." Jamie Greisemer, who was one of the chief designers of several early games in the series, says, "Halo is a cultural icon, and like anything with cultural capital, it is going to be used by politicians and brands and anyone else looking for relevancy. Usually, I'd take it as a compliment to Halo's continuing legacy." Greisemer had found the Trump is Master Chief post amusing, but the ICE one he did not. Quote, "Using Halo imagery as a call to destroy people because of their immigration status goes way too far and ought to offend every Halo fan, regardless of political orientation," Greisemer said. "I personally find it despicable. The Flood are evil zombie parasites and are not an allegory to any group of people." But ICE propaganda aside, other gamers pointed out that it was a bit ironic for the Trump regime to pretend as if they're somehow pro-gamer. As Daniel Ahmad put it, "The Trump tariffs have been directly responsible for the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch seeing a price increase in the United States. Not sure how that's, quote, power to the players." Now, in a different viral post, this person shared a picture of Master Chief giving Trump a wedgie with two headlines about how Trump called for a crackdown on violent video games after blaming them for mass shootings. Others also shit on the fascist co-optation of Halo. This person says "fuck ICE" with a red versus blue teabagging gif. People shared this widely circulated AI image of Master Chief calling for the release of the Epstein files. This person shared an image of Jeffrey Epstein welcoming Master Chief to the Lolita Express. And last but not least, this person responded to GameStop saying Master Chief would never shake hands with a pedophile or rapist. He'd literally be fighting against Trump. MAGA are the covenant, LOL, an autocratic theocracy. And that person is absolutely correct. Master Chief literally fought against the hyper-religious alien species called the Covenant that wanted to destroy the galaxy by activating the halos because they thought that it would trigger a rapture that would allow them to ascend to the great beyond. Sound familiar? Nonetheless, Nazi-adjacent gamers on Twitter felt like the DHS Halo meme got them to view the franchise in an entirely different light, which led to them being shit on by other people for their lack of media literacy. For example, the American Culturalist tweeted, "Realizing that the flood in Halo was always a metaphor for mass migration," to which Simmons responded, "You people are so fucking stupid." Others also responded to memes that were being circulated about how triggered the wokists supposedly were by Halo, writing, "They just don't get it. Halo hasn't changed. The flood was never an allegory for a group of people. This is them appropriating Halo to fit a modern political narrative, and that's the problem." And I've got to say that it is absolutely hilarious to me that the same people who bemoaned the politicization of video games are all of a sudden celebrating the politicization of video games. People like The Quivering, the internet's second stinkiest degenerate, who took a break from being triggered by black characters in video games to make fun of how triggered everyone else is, specifically Angry Joe, because he dared to say, "Hey, you shouldn't use a franchise that we all love in that way because it's despicable and dehumanizing." But here's what he had to say.
The entire leftoid gaming community, the ones that gatecap, the ones that are responsible for the state of modern gaming, which is essentially everything in the AAA sphere is absolute garbage, and the only good game you can get nowadays is essentially from an indie or a foreign studio. You know, the people that thought, you know, Star Wars Outlaws was a great game, even though everyone, the people that led to basically 2/3 of the industry collapsing with their stupid, idiotic, we need to have ugly women in video games takes. These people are having an absolute meltdown, and I'm here for it. In particular, Angry Joe, who famously destroyed his channel with a legendary Trump meltdown when he won the election. The biggest mistake that these leftoids made was thinking that they were, you know, that there were no conservative gamers. Well, first of all, yes, of course, there are and continue to be conservative gamers. But also, the biggest group of gamers are probably people who are apolitical. And they got real tired of leftoids being like, this game has to have trans characters in it. This game has to have 2 women. This game has to have X, Y, and Z number of black people in it. And then they would worry about that, which people say, well, what do you care? That's fine. But then they would put out a garbage game and tell us that we didn't like it because the main character was black or the main character was female. When the truth of the matter was that the game sucked balls. Because when you're spending all your time worried about diversity in video games, you're not spending time working on making a great game, an awesome game, right? You're not worried about that. You're worried about diversity. And so they lost. The left lost the video game wars. You know, Ubisoft is in shambles. You know, Ghost of Yotai, even, you know, from a beloved studio, sucked. You know, people have had enough.
You stupid, stinky bitch. The AAA gaming industry isn't fucked up because of forced diversity. It's fucked up because of greed, which is incentivized by capitalism, which you should know, seeing as how it's the economic system that you shill for on a daily basis. But I mean, think of how idiotic this line of thinking is. At a time when corporations like Microsoft are buying up studios and shutting them down, at a time when thousands of game developers are being laid off despite the success of their games, simply to shore off corporate profits, they get fired anyway, at a time when companies are releasing unfinished games and raising prices, nickel and diming us with microtransactions and paid DLC here and there, this dumb motherfucker somehow convinced himself that the industry is in shambles because developers can't make good games because they're forced to hyper-focus on diversity to appease the woke left. I mean, to call this mentality childish would be an insult to children. It is downright fucking idiotic. And its evidence is that all of the AAA games with woke characters, i.e. women and black people and LGBTQ plus people, they're just not good. And had they focused more on making games fun instead of diversity, their games would actually be good. Except he's just wrong. He's objectively wrong. Ghost of Yotai, the game that he brought up, which has a female lead, therefore it's woke, that is an incredible game with a Metacritic score of 86. Spider-Man 2 features Miles Morales, a black Hispanic character. That's another excellent game that's supposedly woke but still well received. The Horizon series, which features a diverse cast and a lesbian lead, also very, very good. But just because you can't enjoy them because you're too triggered doesn't mean that the rest of us don't enjoy these games. And the reason why gaming companies are making games more diverse is because of money, not because they're trying to appease some imagined woke mob. Gaming is no longer a niche hobby exclusively for nerds. It's now a mainstream thing that's enjoyed by all demographics, and the push for diversity is an attempt to expand their market share. Like, when you see a company change its logo for Pride Month, do you think that they're doing that out of the goodness of their hearts? No, they don't give a fuck about LGBTQ plus people. They're gayifying their logos to pander to queer people because they want their money. Queer money spends just as much as straight money does, right? That's why they do it, period. But I will say this. I do agree with the quivering about one thing. Indie games are better in general, but he's not smart enough to understand why that's the case, why they're better. It's because unlike AAA studios, indie game studios, they haven't yet become big enough and profitable enough to be driven purely by shareholders who pressure them to make the green line go up higher and higher year after year. And you know that their success isn't contingent on them not being woke or something, because Expedition 33, for example, a phenomenal indie game that's very likely going to win Game of the Year, would be considered woke by his standards since it has multiple female leads. Hades 2, another possible Game of the Year contender by an indie studio, has a female lead and gay characters. Vampire Survivors, another woke game with trans characters. Read the best here if you don't believe me. That's another game that is highly regarded by everyone who's played it. Indie games aren't better, though, because, there isn't some woke corporate overlord pushing them to add more marginalized characters. They're better because they haven't been corrupted by greed like the larger studios who are purely motivated by profits. But regardless if people like him want to admit it or not, they are the ones who are endlessly triggered. So much so that they've become the mirror image of the 2015 era SJW with blue hair that they always make fun of. And now we are the ones dunking on them in the way that they were dunking on SJWs, because it's so clownish, and we're sick and tired of their endless bitching and moaning, and it's led to so many people, even prominent gamers, going off on them, like Fightin' Cowboy, who went viral earlier this year for this amazing rant.
I'm gonna make this clear. If you're just coming here to get into this weird fucking race shit about a historical figure that existed in Japanese history, I'm just going to remove you. And guess what? That means you ain't going to be around for Kazan or Night Rain or AI Limit or any of that shit. I don't give a fuck what your opinion is of this game. I don't care. Your opinion is worthless to me. The quality of health of my morning shit had a bigger impact on my thought process today than you being upset that there's a black guy in Assassin's Creed. So shut the fuck up. All right? We're not doing this shit. It's a fucking video game. If you are upset that there's a black guy in a video game, fuck off. I don't want you here. I don't care. Stop. I'm not doing this fucking argument. Every goddamn game these days. Oh, it's woke. Oh, there's a black guy. Oh, there's a trans person. Shut the fuck up. Either play the game or go the fuck outside, bro. It's not that hard. God damn. I've been on this earth 37 fucking years. When I was a kid, guess what? If a game came out and I didn't want to get involved with it, I didn't fucking play with it. I didn't go on the internet and cry like an entitled little child. Wah, 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 wah. The game doesn't have stuff that I want. So shut the fuck up and leave, bro.
That was excellent, and I think that he speaks for most of the people in society whose brains haven't been rotted by terminally hyper-online conservatism that bitches about every single thing, and the widespread mockery and denunciation of the rights appropriation of Halo speaks to this growing frustration that normal people are feeling with these petulant reactionaries who just suck all of the joy out of every single video game and movie and TV show, and I'd say books too, but they can't read, so thankfully that industry is spared from their wrath. But even though they're entitled to their shitty opinions, the rest of us aren't triggered when we tell them to shut the fuck up after hearing one of their brain-dead takes on multimedia. So I, for one, refuse to let a fascist regime hijack a franchise that I grew up with for propagandistic purposes. Although, since I'm a generous guy, they can enjoy the TV show. They can keep that one. But on a serious note, though, video games are one of the few spaces that we have where we can escape the dystopia that we're living in. And I'll be damned if the Trump regime is going to invade our virtual spaces too, right? So kudos to everybody, all the gamers who are condemning these idiots. Despite the abundance of loudmouths and dipshits clapping like seals at Nazi-like DHS tweets, they are not the majority. We are.
Woke mob. Woke mob.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke test.
Woke ideology.
Woke Olympics.
Woke ideology.
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 Weaponized wokery.
Woke ideology.